family is not a soap opera, and I think we ought to raise the level of debate, and that's really the problem here. We've lowered it to real gutter snipe, gutter street level.
OK. Gentlemen over here in our Manchester camp, you said, no, these scandals haven't damaged the country's reputation. Why do you take that view?
For the simple reason, bed hopping's been a pastime with royalty for centuries. The only working class out there couldn't care less what royalty did. They've got more to think about, try to make ends meet, find a job, than worry what the royal families do.
OK. Let me introduce you all to someone who I suspect we could describe as Britain's most ardent royal family. You'll know what I mean when you look around Margaret Tyler's rather remarkable house.
Well, I have actually got the Queen and the Duke on my balcony, waving to the neighbours, of course, and sometimes you can find me sitting on the throne, I have to say. I suppose you could call me Queen Margaret of North Wembley. I just collect everything about the royal family, and I really love them. Charles and Diana are my very favourite couple, and I absolutely love their wedding day. And I do think that one day they might just get back together again.
Well, Queen of North Wembley is a mixture of cheers and jeers there. Do you really mean that?
I would like it to happen very much.
I think you might be the only person in the audience who would. Alan Amos, down here. Former Conservative MP, is your place a shrine to the royal family?
No, it isn't. The Queen is the head of the Church of England. She's the richest woman in the world. She is the head of a rotten, class-ridden, corrupt political and social establishment, which is directly responsible for this nation's dreadful decline. I have no problem with that lady's royal knickknacks, but I'm just saddened by the fact that she should want to glorify people who are basically parasites and hypocrites.
Isn't it a rather... If you don't mind me saying so, isn't it a rather odd posture for, albeit a former Tory MP?
No, I've seen the light. This is the truth. She is a symbol of everything that is rotten about this country, and the sooner we get rid of her, the better.
OK. Just a... Cheers and boos. Just a taste of our audience's views. Lots more later on.
Well, the temperature of this debate is hotting up. Thank you very much, John. But there, we must take a break. We're back soon. Remember, we want your vote on the big question. Do you want a monarchy? Call 0891 980 111 for yes, or 0891 980 222 for no.
Well, I mean, I don't think the Queen's put a foot wrong, has she? All through since she's been, what, the Queen for 40-odd years. Family's been falling beside her, you know, falling down all around her. She must wonder what's going on.
I'm sure they like publicity like everybody else, but they like it in a nice way for good causes. And somehow they just can't do right.
I'm a great fan of the House of Windsor, the same as I am of the Fowlers, so I would just say stick with it.
Welcome back to Monarchy, the Nation Decides. You're watching the world's biggest live current affairs event coming from the National Exhibition Centre here in Birmingham, and in the presence of a cross-section of 3,000 people from Britain's biggest cities. John?
Thank you very much indeed, Trevor. Thank you very much indeed to you at home for all your calls. If you can't get through at the moment, do keep trying. The lines will be open until 10 o'clock, so please try later. 14,000 lines up at any one time, so I'm sure you will get through in the end. We're asking, are the royals in terminal decline? What are they actually like? We've got a couple of people here who've actually worked for them. Paul, you were a butler to the Queen.
Yes, I was the Queen's butler for 4 years.
You served her. What's she like? Is she the cold, distant person some would have us believe?
Not at all. I found her to be extremely caring, and when I... Thank you. When I had to leave my employment because of a cancer I had, she bought me some wonderful gifts. I still get invited to a dance at the palace or a garden party by her way of keeping in touch with ex-staff.
OK.
I found her to be an extremely caring sovereign, not only to the peoples of her nation, but an excellent mother and an excellent grandmother.
OK, just have a kick. Dominic, you worked, just one tick. Dominic worked for the Duchess of York. You were the Duchess of York's personal press secretary. I presume that you were sympathetic to the royal family when you went into her employment. What were you like when you came out? Only one at a time, sir.
Well, if you go to work at Buckingham Palace, as I did in a professional capacity, 35 years old, no particular aristocratic connections, you expect to be able to respect the institution which houses your head of state. And I just found it so deeply unprofessional, so much in a time warp, full of curtsying and deference.
Even for you?
Definitely.
You had to curtsy?
Oh, yes.
As press secretary?
Yes.
And was that the reason you left?
No, that wasn't the reason that I left.
But you found it out of touch?
I found it
And not for you.
completely out of touch. I went in as an agnostic and I came out as an atheist.
An atheist? You mean a Republican? All right, well, the
Reforms are
religious analogy
necessary.
will do for now. Andy Parks, I presume that you would love to work in a royal house. Are you a big fan of the Queen?
Oh, absolutely, John. I'm probably the biggest one in the country. I love the Queen so much, I actually recorded the Queen's speech a year ago. Watch it every single day of the year at 3 o'clock.
Can I... There's someone behind me shouting sad.
Yeah,
Can I
well-
just ask you, why, Andy?
Why? Because the Queen is the nicest person in the country.
Why? I presume it was you shouting sad, was it?
No, it was
you shouting. Why were you shouting sad?
I've never heard anything like it in my life. The guy's is obsessed.
Rubbish. Can we have a copy of that?
He wants to see something like that.
Can we have a copy of the video? One at a time. What do you do the same?
I would take an interest if it was the last Queen's speech and they were going to turn the lights out in Buckingham Palace and return this country to one of equality. I don't believe in deference and superiority of any family or person.
Presumably, Mark Saunders, neither... Hang on. Presumably, Mark Saunders, neither do you, because you're a member of what's known as the paparazzi. You spend your professional life actually chasing the royal family, harassing them, some would say. Is that what you do?
No, not at all. No, it's a question of supply and demand. The world demands pictures of the British royal family, and we simply supply them.
OK, let's look at a sample of your work. Our viewers at home can see a sample of your work. It's a picture of Princess Di talking to Prince William just before the famous Panorama interview. Now, bearing in mind that's a minor, and it's a snatched photograph, isn't that intrusion?
Not at all, because if you consider the Panorama interview was the biggest news story in the world. People were interested to know exactly what was going on in the period building up to it, and it just shows that the children are involved. It's not just a question of Di and Charles arguing on TV.
But she doesn't like it, does she? I mean, she's actually confronted you, hasn't she?
Many times, yeah, but she's confronted most royal reporters and photographers to say that, no, she doesn't like it.
Well, why do you keep doing it?
Because it's, as I say, a question of supply and demand. The world does want pictures.
You've no conscience about that. What do you think about people like that?
You behave like a psychopath.
No, don't read from...
Hovering around Diana, not giving her a minute of peace. You get some sort of kicks out of it. Why don't you buzz off and leave?
I think folks who might consider psychopath a bit strong. What's your view?
My view is that he does it for what he gets in his pocket, like most of those there do.
OK, lady over here, bursting to get in.
I would say to the paparazzi here, say goodbye to your job, because if the Republicans win, there'll be nobody with a free enterprise like you. The television programmes like this will never exist again.
OK. Over here, we've got Tessa Sanderson shaking her head in disbelief. Now, Tessa, you've won many Olympic medals. I think you've got one here. You've brought along, and you're presumably very proud of it. Are you proud when you get up on the pedestal and the national anthem plays? Do you sing the national anthem?
Very much so. I think it was one of the greatest moments of my life, winning the Olympic gold medal. And I must say that, standing on the podium, it was fantastic because, and it all came to you when the flag was being hoisted up and you were singing God Save the Queen, and you got very, very choked. Because I respect the Queen, I think she stands for a lot. And, I mean, there are certain things that I must say the royal family has slipped up on, but I do respect the Queen, and I was proud to stand on there.
Would you feel the same way if the anthem was for a president, or the song was for a president?
No, I wouldn't. I definitely would not. No. Because there are so many presidents across the world, you can name so many, but there's only one monarchy.
OK, let's talk about across the world. Gordon Banks alongside you, our World Cup hero from '66. You've been all over the world. What vibrations do you get, Gordon, about people's perception of the royal family when you, as an ambassador for this country, which you most certainly were, travelled far and wide?
Well, we would go into any foreign country and people would come up to us and say, have you ever met the Queen? Have you spoken to the Queen? And when you said yes, you could see the gleam in their eye. It was like fantastic that you've actually met the Queen. It was a great honour.
Let me come back to Mark. Maybe he got a rough deal, maybe he didn't. Aren't you actually, as someone else has indicated a bit earlier, Mark, aren't you actually helping to destroy that image?
Oh, no, not at all. They do that themselves. They go on television and they admit to adultery. James Hewitt was Princess Diana's lover. I want to believe the myth that Princess Diana is going to have a boyfriend. You know, let's not have a loser like James Hewitt. That's the problem. They're just human beings.
Quick last word.
They've done most of the damage to the royal family has been self-inflicted because people now realise they're not superior, they're not special, they're very fallible, and therefore we shouldn't defer to them.
OK, we'll leave it for there. Some lively views. Trevor, all yours.
Thanks, John. Well, very definite and very diverse views there, and we'll return to our audience in a few moments. First, though, here's Roger with more questions about honour and about pride.
Claire Rayner, surely the proudest moment of your life must have been when you got the OBE.
No. I was very proud to be honoured by my country, by the Prime Minister's office, and indeed that it was a Tory government, when I'm not a Tory, should recognise that I had done something useful was great. But there was no way this side of Armageddon I was going to the palace, and I didn't. I phoned up and got them to put it in the post. Look, I can understand Tessa's pride. I can understand Gordon Banks's pride. They had achieved something for all of us, for the citizens of this country. We are the ones who gave them that award, not the royals. It's our gift to the people of our country that we approve of. We give Tessa the same respect, the same admiration, and she will get the same charge of joy from what she has done for all of us, whoever happens to be our nominative figurehead.
Peter Hitchens.
This is not to do with the royals.
Peter Hitchens, you're looking aghast at that.
Surely, Claire, under those circumstances, you should have turned it down, isn't it? Isn't it terribly hypocritical to be a Republican and to take... But what Claire acknowledged by taking this medal is that the magic of royalty, which is so important to so many people, and without which countries suffer terribly. Those countries this century which have got rid of their monarchy, Germany, which turned to the Nazis, Russia, which turned to Stalin. If you don't have a monarchy, you very rapidly find people look elsewhere.
We were talking about pride and people getting... Hold on for a moment. We were talking about pride and people getting gongs. Now, here's somebody, Andrew Morton, who didn't get a gong, but he did make £3 million from a book which exploded the mystique of the royal family. Why did you write it?
Well, I was writing a book on the Princess of Wales on her life story, and what I did was explode the myth of the monarchy and expose the reality of the monarchy. And I think a lot of people have now come to re-examine the monarchy once again, and that they've invested a lot of trust in the royal family. They invested a lot of trust in Charles and Diana, and they feel let down by it. And a lot of people who are monarchists are now having second thoughts. And I think that's the significance of the audience today, because it's so polarised. When Prince Charles comes to the throne, we'll have a polarised country. We won't have a unified country, we'll have one that's polarised.
And you remain a rather rich man.
Well, I hope so.
Ros Miles, as a historian, what contribution to royal history do you think Andrew Morton's book will have made?
Well, I think even Andrew would admit that it was hastily written. Somebody asked me if English was his native language. And it is full of rubbish. He might have done a duty to history if he'd explained how Diana was going to kill herself by throwing herself against a china cabinet. We'd all have liked to know that. But it opened the floodgates. It certainly broke the taboo, and I have to say it changed history. For the first time, the unthinkable became thinkable, that a royal couple could divorce. We forget, of course, how many royal couples have had historical problems before. Henry VIII wrecked a church and executed countless dukes and so forth in order to achieve his divorce. But my view is that the royalty will continue for all Andrew's $3 million, and I don't begrudge him a penny of it.
Let Andrew respond, please.
The very fact that we tonight, we can have a debate about the monarchy, even in this very fetid atmosphere, it shows that we've come on a long way from the 1950s, where some 3 out of 10 people believe that the Queen descended from God.
History goes back beyond the 1950s. The Elizabeth I, Queen Victoria, they all had the most extraordinary attacks on the monarchy. Earl of Essex raised a rebellion against Elizabeth I.
We're talking about now. We're talking about the modern constitutional
Andrew Morton, let's talk about now.
Yes.
You blame the Queen, don't you?
As far as I'm concerned, if the Queen Elizabeth is Elizabeth the Last, then historians will look back on this period and they'll inevitably have to look back on the Queen and say it was all down to her, because finally the buck stops at Buckingham Palace.
Frederick Forsyth, has he got it right?
No, I think Gerald Ratner got it right when he referred to his product as absolute crap, and that's what you've been listening to. Shut up and listen. What?
Absolute crap because he's telling the truth? By definition. If this
Let him respond. Shut up, please. Let him respond. Let him respond.
What, you get extra points for rudeness?
Well, yep, I do.
Okay, good.
What people overlook is that, put it this way, I know a little bit about, in fact I know quite a lot about investigative journalism, and I know a lot about espionage. Now what we're subjecting, what the press of this country and the rats who crawl behind the wainscoting are subjecting the royal family of this country to is beyond investigative journalism. It is now in the realms of espionage. They are pried upon and spied upon 24 hours a day. Yeah, by people like you, and you, and you.
I've never heard so much nonsense.
There is not a family in this audience that could take that kind of pressure, day in, day out, week in, week out, month in, month out.
And how many families in this audience
There
are on
is
the
not
civil list?
Very explosive stuff. We'll have to wait. There'll be more in a minute. Little sign of agreement. It's time, I'm afraid, we have to turn to Trevor.
Thank you, Roger. We're about to take another quick break now. Then next on Monarchy, The Nation Decides, we ask, are the royals worth it? Are they a priceless national treasure or a national debt we should no longer pay?
I think they're doing a very good job and I like them.
For myself, Charles, bear me in mind if you're out there, you know. Take me to one of your huge villas in Spain. You can just leave me there. You don't have to spend much time with me. I can just be there for you when you come back.
I couldn't do that, love. I think it takes a lot of courage to marry into the royal family. I think they think it's all going to be wonderful, and it isn't. It's bloody hard work, darling.
Welcome back to Monarchy, The Nation Decides. Remember, we want your vote on the big question. Do you want a monarchy? Call 0891 980 111 for yes, or 0891 980 222 for no. Those numbers will stay on the screen, and don't forget, there are 14,000 special telephone lines to try and make sure that you get through. Now, though, the delicate matter of money and the monarchy, and the crucial question, are they worth it? The civil list, which finances the royal costs, cost the taxpayers £8 million a year. And many say the real cost is much higher than that, and that there are far too many royal hangers-on. Wait. But would a president be any cheaper? In a few minutes, we'll be hearing from the likes of Sir Bernard Ingham, Claire Rayner, Frederick Forsyth, and others. But first, a Republican report from Andrew Neil, appropriately, you might feel, from Traitor's Gate at the Tower of London.
4 years ago, when fire raged through Windsor Castle, the British love affair with monarchy went up in smoke with it. The government thought nothing of announcing that the £40 million damage would be met by taxpayers. The taxpayers revolted. Government and royal family beat a hasty retreat. They found other ways to fund the restoration. But what had been unquestionable is now being regularly asked. Is the House of Windsor worth it? Well, the royal family certainly costs a lot more than the $8 million or so it gets a year tax-free from the civil list. Up to 10 times that is cleverly salted away in ministries ranging from defence to environment. At around £80 million a year, ours is by far the most expensive royalty in Europe. Apologists for the Windsors say that much more than that is earned back in tourism. Now, put aside for the moment the rather bizarre notion that our constitutional arrangements should be determined by the tourist industry. Ask instead if tourists would stop flocking to Britain to see the palaces and other royal paraphernalia. They still flock to Paris, after all, even though France got rid of its monarchy 2 centuries ago.
But perhaps the biggest price we pay for the monarchy isn't to be found in any balance sheet. It's the depressing signal that wealth, power, and position in our country are still inherited rather than earned. Our current monarchy makes us better known as a royal theme park, a sort of regal soap opera. Now, that may generate enough income to ensure our genteel decline as a country, but it's no basis for staying in the front rank of nations in the 21st century. If that's treason, then I'm in the right place.
Sir Bernard Ingham, is he in the right place? Is that treason?
Oh, dear old Andrew is lusting after the Republican martyrdom of incarceration in the Tower. What a daft lad he is. I mean, the reality is that he won't be incarcerated because there is free speech in this country. We even allow Max Clifford house room. Now, let us turn to the question, is value for money? The civil list costs this nation about £8 million to run for the Queen to act as head of state and to act as head of the Commonwealth. But of course, the monarchy costs more than that, and the total overall cost, with everything thrown in, is about £55 million. But since 1760, the monarch has voluntarily given over the proceeds of the estates, which are now worth £90 million. We are therefore £35 million quids in on a simple calculation.
Andrew Neil. Does he have a point? First of all about your opinions, and secondly about the money.
There are other ways of measuring the benefit of the monarchy.
Can Andrew please reply? Well, first of all, have you got his sums right?
First of all, Sir Bernard may want me beheaded, but I'd rather be beheaded in saying something I believe than being castrated to be a mouthpiece for Margaret Thatcher for 10 years. And the fact is that the cost of the House of Windsor compared to the cost of any other monarchy in Europe is astronomical. They cost as much as if we still had a British Empire that ruled a quarter of the world and that the sun never set on. And if we had a president, there is no way it would cost so much, because in a parliamentary system, the Prime Minister and the government would still run the country. The president would be a ceremonial head of state. The Irish president costs peanuts. The German president costs peanuts. It would be nothing like the cost of planes and trains and boats and buses and whatever it is that they cost right now.
Anthony Holden,
I was under the impression that the government ran this country, not the Queen.
Okay. Anthony Holden, you produced the first book that looked at life with the Windsors when you wrote a biography of Prince Charles, but you're no longer a friend of the family. Why?
Well, if we're discussing finances, I agree with Andrew that the Windsor fire was a deeply symbolic event, which was illustrative of the way that one of the world's wealthiest families chooses to continue to live at public expense. As long as that castle stood, it belonged to them and we weren't allowed into it. When it burnt down and she hadn't got her fire insurance, it belonged to us and we had to pay for it. The damage amounted to £40 million. Rather than write a cheque for £40 million, which the Queen could well afford, she opened to the public Buckingham Palace, thereby charging British citizens, although they're subjects, not citizens, £8 a head to enter a building that they own, that they pay £25 million a year to maintain, to look at paintings that they own.
Okay.
And this seems to me symbolic of the Windsors representing an imperial Britain that doesn't exist anymore. The actual statistic, compiled by the Wall Street Journal, a well-respected American financial paper, is that the British monarchy costs twice the combined costs of all 6 other European monarchies.
Okay. Is he right, Frederick Forsyth? Has he got his figures right? And do they return on whatever we spend?
No, he hasn't got his figures right, but of course there's a subtext here, because we all know that Mr. Holden was a passionate monarchist when he was a friend of Prince of Wales, and got enormous amount of help, official help, to write his books. Until that ended, then he became a passionate Republican. slightly tainted motivations. As for the facts and the figures, no, the usual claptrap being produced here. There is a body called the Royal Trustees, which is a bunch, actually, despite the title royal, they're not really royal at all. They're a bunch of very tough-headed accountants, and their job is to report to Parliament what our monarchy costs, to the penny, and this they do, including the Royal Yacht Britannia, which is now being decommissioned forever, including the Royal Flight, which is being decommissioned. They're now almost all flying by charter, by commercial airlines.
Okay, well,
including the Royal Train. It's 55 million, but we make 85, so there's at least a 30 million surplus. In other words, they don't cost you a penny. That's a fact.
Leaving, very briefly, Alan Starkey, leaving the disputed figures aside, are they a boost for business, a tourist attraction, or a laughing stock for Americans like you?
There's no
In a few words.
There's no question that your monarch is not a laughing stock, that Americans come to see her. But the other members of the royal family are a laughing stock, but you've exported them to us, so they're now our problem.
For now, thanks very much.
Remember, we want your vote on the big question. Do you want a monarchy? Call 0891 980 111 for yes, or 0891 980 222 for no. So now, let's test public opinion on whether the royals are earning their keep, and see what our Maury poll came up with when we asked two searching questions on their worth.
Yes, that's right. Firstly, is the royal family value for money? Well, the shocking answer is that only 39% believe that the royals are. But a majority, 52%, believe they're not worth the money. 9% were undecided. Here, Maury asked people to name 3 useful things that the royals do. Amazingly, 83% couldn't. Only 17% were able to name 3 useful tasks performed by the royals. Charity work was top. Their function as ambassadors abroad came second, and third was their value as a tourist attraction.
Freddie Forsyth, 83% of respondents couldn't name 3 useful things the royal family does. Surely that's a damning indication of how the public really views them, isn't it?
No, I think it's a damning indication of what happens when someone stomps you in a street corner with a question you hadn't thought of before. I can't normally, if you really want to know, I can't think of 3 useful things that the press does. But if,
Bernie Grant,
I really tried, I'd try and help Andrew out.
Bernie Grant, more than half the respondents thought that the royal family wasn't value for money. Do you?
Yeah, I think they're value for money. It must be value for money because the tabloid press make enough money out of the royals. If the royals were to close down tomorrow, the tabloid press and every court correspondent would be out of work. Secondly, the fact of the matter is that the Queen is not only the Queen of England, she's the head of the Commonwealth and has tremendous respect amongst Commonwealth countries.
This is very peculiar, if I may say so. There are you who campaign against wealth and privilege, and you're a monarchist.
No, well, I was brought up in the colonies, and I remember as a schoolboy, we got a holiday for the Queen's birthday, and I was happy with that. But I have to tell you that as far as I'm concerned, the monarchy gives value for money, particularly in relation to the Commonwealth and to foreign countries. And they treat every country the same, regardless of the size.
Bernie, please. Paul Flynn, you just heard him say they're invaluable.
Does Bernie Grant think it's value for money to keep one single family at public expense in 7 palaces, one of which has got 600 rooms? The best boost we could give to tourism is for the royal family to live in one of the palaces they own and open the other palaces for tourism. We know that Versailles attracts 7 million visitors a year. We're in a position where we're keeping these people and 50 hangers-on who happen to be relatives of the Queen, who choose, most of them, not to work at all, in enormous luxury. Why should we allow them to live a billionaire lifestyle? Is it sensible?
Paul, please, Marianne Seagull.
Actually, no money goes to the so-called hangers-on at all anymore. The only money in the civil list goes to the Queen, the Duke of Edinburgh and the Queen Mother,
no, that's
and the
untrue.
Queen pays for all the rest of her family.
No, we maintain the royal palaces.
That's right. Are they value for money or not, in your view? Quickly, are they value for money?
My contention is this would be a very grey and drab country without the colour that the royal family bring to it.
Okay. We'll have to leave it there for a moment. Thanks a lot. Trevor?
Thanks, Roger. Now, a reminder to our audience, the red card, as we said earlier, is for no, the blue card for yes. So may I have your cards at the ready now, please, for the question, should the royal family pay its own way? Well, I think an overwhelming majority blue says yes, they should. That's the card vote. That's the verdict of our audience here. Now, let's look at the result when the same question was asked by Maury. And I can tell you it was one of the most emphatic majorities of our entire poll.
Yes, Trevor, and actually it does mirror our audience's decision tonight. In fact, our survey showed that a resounding 79% believe that the royals should pay their own way. Only 15% say that they shouldn't, and 6% were undecided. And in Scotland, that majority jumps to almost 90%.
Michelle, thank you very much. A very clear message there, I think. Let's find out how members of our audience here react to that. John?
Thank you, Trevor. Well, let's begin in Scotland with that astounding result. 90% thinking they should pay their own way. Andrew Lynch, you're from Glasgow. Aren't even you surprised by that?
I thought it may have actually been more.
Really?
Since the Scottish are into bread and butter issues.
Yeah. You think they should pay their own way too?
Of course.
Yeah. But you must recognise, you're a community worker, you must recognise that they do a great deal of work for the community. Prince Charles in particular does a great deal of work for the homeless.
Maybe some communities, but certainly not Glasgow.
OK.
In my opinion.
And another Scot over here, John Campbell. Now, John, I know you don't mind me mentioning this, but you are suffering from full-blown age. You've been visited by Princess Di, which is a great thing for her to do. But at the end of the day, is there any worth in that kind of act?
I think the profile that Diana gave to AIDS meant that most people in Britain understood something about AIDS when, at a time, nobody really wanted to know and thought that all these people deserved to die.
For that alone, are they worth the money?
I think she's worth the money, yes.
OK, I'm going to have lots more views in just a minute, but first of all, remind you at home that it's your vote we're after. Here's how you cast it.
Remember, we want your vote on the big question. Do you want a monarchy? Call 0891 980 111 for yes, or 0891 980 222 for no.
OK, value for money. Irene Allen, you're in a charity or involved with a charity that helps people with leprosy. Are they value for money?
Yes, they are. I work for LEPRA, the British Leprosy Relief Association, and as leprosy is a disease that is not endemic in this country, it is extremely difficult to raise money for it. The Queen is our patron. She is on our headed notepaper. She gives us credibility. She gives us respectability.
And she can turn things around for you, I gather.
Oh, she certainly can. If I may cite a small thing that happened, at our 60th anniversary, we invited members of committees, boards, other charities with whom we worked, other people in the field, to come and celebrate with us at a service of Thanksgiving in London. Half of those decided that they couldn't spare the time, they couldn't turn up, but when Her Majesty agreed to come and support us, you would be amazed how many of those prior engagements were broken.
OK, let's move down to Dave Nellis. Dave Nellis is a name I'm sure many of you remember, a former militant MP. He's campaigned against the monarchy for a long time. Doesn't a story like that make you at least stop to pause to think?
Well, as a socialist, I wish there wasn't any need for charities, but charities wouldn't stop tomorrow morning if the royals weren't involved, because there's 500,000 heroes and heroines in this country who really keep charities going. We live in a very rich country, which at the extremes there are 45,000 millionaires, which the royal family are at the top of the list, and 18 million people, 1 in 3 of all children, who are at the other end. How can a royal family with access to over 2,000 rooms ever understand homelessness?
OK, we're talking about...
The royal family are not part of the solution, they're part of the problem.
OK, let's just leave the politics aside for a minute. We're asking the question, thank you very much, George, are they value for money? That's the question we asked. Now,
they're not value for money at all. I can remember, this is a local story, about 12 years ago, Prince William was 2. Jaguar in Coventry presented a £50,000 scale model of a Jaguar car to Prince William. I can take you to 1,000 kids in unemployed families who 2 weeks ago would not have had £50 spent on them at Christmas.
All right.
They're not
Peter Stringfellow, are they value for money as far as nightclub owners are concerned? You're looking at Dave's contribution there in disbelief.
Well, because the thing is getting so petty and nasty, that's why I'm in disbelief. We've got to understand what we're talking about here. Personalities and monarchy get all mixed up. If you are, as I am, or I certainly have been, an international businessman, you know the value.
he had a nightclub in Miami.
Wait a moment, folks. Listen to me now, because when you shout and yell like my lovely friend next door, it does nothing. Now listen to a few stories and then make your own decision. But at the end, we're all going to say yes or no. It goes like this. If you've been abroad, you know that the royal family is Great Britain as far as the foreigners are concerned. The Americans like it. Listen first. Please don't even clap me, just listen. We are Great Britain. Without Great Britain, then there's no monarchy. We are England, we're Scotland, we're Ireland, and we're heading for a federal Europe without the monarchy.
Can you accept that, David?
Not at all. I mean, he's making the case, isn't he, that tourism is what the royals are good at. To be frank about it, if he's interested in American tourists coming to this country, he ought to be sending them to the Caribbean and to cloisters, because the royal family are never here when they're on holiday.
OK. Quick word.
You've given him far too much credibility there. Listen, without the royal family, there's still going to be poverty. Without the royal family, there's still going to be arguments about the economy. The royal family costs maybe 2 jet planes a year. For God's sake, get it into proposal.
Let me just ask Peter, an elder member of our audience, and I hope you won't mind me saying that, Jack, but I know you fought in the First War. You lied about your age, I gather, to fight for king and country. Will you do it again?
Well, I'd like to make this point very clear. I think we're missing the whole argument of this particular debate. As far as that question is concerned, whether I would do it again, the reality is that I stepped from one battle zone when I was demobbed into another battle zone. On the first one, I was fighting against the King's enemies. In this one, I'm fighting against the Queen's ministers.
Why do you say that?
Because my experience as the representative of Old People's Trade Union Old People's Organisation, and also as a person who goes down with Meals on Wheels and sees the deplorable conditions that many ex-service people are having to put up with.
Is that the fault of the royal family, Jack?
Well, wait a
No, hang on a thing. It's an important point. Is that the fault of the royal family?
It is in this sense, and it would apply, of course, if it was a president. It's not whether we have a queen, a king, or a president. The important issue is who do they represent and whose interests do they rule.
OK, a fair thought to leave us on. Got to remind
one point, really.
But very, very briefly, please.
Really, from the Queen's own speech, she made a point very forcefully that we should not look back, but looking back is going down a dark alley. Well, I would suggest that we take that up.
OK, no, I'm going to pause you there, Jack.
No,
Jack, I've got a lot of people.
Sorry, but this is important. Let me finish. Let's all make a fresh start. Let the Queen and all the royal family, let them give up all their wealth, let them start like ordinary working people and see how special they are then.
OK. Right, no, Jack, thanks very much. Do remember, it's your vote at home we want. This is how you cast it.
Remember, we want your vote on the big question. Do you want a monarchy? Call 0891 980 111 for yes, or 0891 980 222 for no.
Well, the phones have been running hot, and we'll have a complete breakdown of the way the country is divided later in the programme. Now, let's try and settle this argument about the royals being value for money. Freddie Forsyth, you seem to view the Queen as priceless, even as just a figurehead.
No, it's not just a figurehead. I mean, we're talking about the Queen in this country, but people overlook, and I have been to some 70 countries, probably a few more than Mr. Flynn, abroad. The respect in which she is held there is amazing. No, it's not.
Yes.
Because anybody...
That isn't the argument.
One
that
moment.
Is not
yes,
the argument.
It is value for money.
The argument's not about the Queen. The argument's about the younger royals and the hangers-on.
Value for money of the Queen.
If you go abroad, you'll find that at one time...
I didn't interrupt you, Mr. Flynn. Let me have my say, if you please.
About the monarchy.
When you go abroad now, you'll find that they used to wind us up by talking about the weather and the queues in Britain. Now they take the mickey out of us by
But
talking
because of our
about toe-sucking
parliamentarians.
and about talking to flowers.
Because of our
the royal family,
parliamentarians.
the younger royals, not the Queen herself, no one's got any word of criticism
You
to say
still
about the
won't
Queen.
let me get my
but the
point
royal
out.
family are now an embarrassment.
How can
Not
I
an
finish?
asset.
Shut up.
Just let him finish his point, and then I'll take something from Marianne Seacout. The point is,
if
briefly.
you've ever watched a royal foreign tour, one thing you notice, and it comes through hot and strong, after it, the deals that are clinched and the contracts that are made by British businessmen are amazing. And you can laugh, but they're your jobs. And she brings in alone millions of pounds of trade that would not be brought in by President Flynn. Ever.
Marianne Seacout, value for money.
Yeah,
Is he serious in saying
Mr. Flynn,
that
please
hard-headed foreigners...
stand back for a lady, please.
The Queen is the most famous and most respected British person in the world. And when we talk about the royal family paying its own way, the royal family already pays its own way. The royal family handed over their crown estates to us. We get £94 million a year from them. We pay £55 million a year. The royal family pays its own way already.
Yes or not? You've got 10 seconds, Andrew.
I can't think of one single contract that the royal family's ever won, except that it portrays this country as an ancient museum theme park, and that doesn't sell planes, it doesn't sell electronics, it doesn't sell what we have to compete in the world for.
Andrew Neil, time's up. That decrees we must make way again for Trevor.
Thank you, Roger. Well, the debate goes on. In a few minutes, we'll be thinking what was once unthinkable and saying what was once thought to be treasonable. If we scrapped the monarchy, how would a republic really work? And who would you have as president? We'll give you the answers right after this.
I think Princess Anne is wonderful. I think she's an absolute hard grafter.
They can only do bad, unfortunately, because there are more eyes upon them than at any other time. So I'm a supporter because they're, in a way, they can't speak up for themselves.
Royalty has cut them down a bit to size, you know. You don't need all that many houses for a start.
Remember, we want your vote on the big question. Do you want a monarchy? Call 0891 980 111 for yes, or 0891 980 222 for no. Welcome back to Monarchy, The Nation Decides, the biggest debate event ever screened. Now, consider the alternative to a monarchy. Do we want to live in the Republic of Great Britain, presided over by a president? That's a frightening prospect for passionate monarchists like Jeffrey Archer.
Oh, listen, you lily-livered, chattering class, grey bunch of Republicans. We don't want to change the system. We've got an excellent system as it is, and it's 1,000 years old. Why change it? Of course, there are one or two things that have gone wrong over the years, but that doesn't mean it can't last for another 1,000 years. In any case, what's your alternative? You going to have President Kinnock?
It is time for that.
President Heseltine?
Afford to move.
President Ashdown?
Their challenge.
No, we don't want any of that rubbish. We want to keep the royal family. They have great value to this country. You only have to see the good work that Princess Diana does for charity all over the world. You only have to see the crowds that are drawn among big businessmen and finance operations right around the world when Prince Charles goes out there as our ambassador. And surely no one can deny that Queen Elizabeth II, in the great tradition of Queen Elizabeth I, has been one of the most powerful and successful monarchs of any century. No, we don't want you Republicans. Off with your heads. Long live the royal family.
Piers Brendan. You've heard what Lord Archer said. Off with the Republicans' heads. That presumably means yours as well. Do you really want to destroy centuries of tradition?
Well, Geoffrey Archer is hardly the person to deal in fact. He's a man like Frederick Forsyth who deals in fiction. So I don't think we really need to take what he says very seriously. Yes, the truth of the matter is we want to get rid of something which we've heard a lot about today, an organisation which, if we look back at it, we've been fed a whole lot of myths. Look at the history of this great history of the monarchy. Queen Victoria told Gladstone's secrets to Disraeli. Edward deserved his nickname, the Caresser. George V wanted to arrest strikers' leaders during the general strike. Edward VIII was pro-Nazi. Look at the history of them. The heir to the throne is somebody who wishes to be reincarnated as a tampon. Have you ever heard of anything so preposterous as this? We want a grown-up system, a system for mature people, a system for citizens rather than subjects.
Hey, you out there, give us a chance down here, please.
Give us a break. We do believe in freedom of speech. We want a system. Victor Hugo said that monarchy was a system for people in their nations in their swaddling clothes. We want to grow up, get off our knees.
A response from Freddie Forsyth, first of all.
Yeah. This is really becoming nonsensical if you're talking about adultery, because Lloyd George, one of the greatest adulterers, to be abolished prime ministers and parliamentarians. No, that's not.
The people did.
Okay, well let's get off the personalities. Could a president in name only work?
No, not in this country. I'll tell you why. If you have any state, and 15 years from now there may not even be a nation state called Britain. Certainly, if Dr. Hasler has his way, we'll be a province of Europe. So we won't need a monarch or a president. We'll have a commissioner general from Brussels. But if we do remain a nation state, then presumably we have to have a head of state. Now, there are only three kinds of head of state: the constitutional monarch, the executive president like Chirac or Clinton, or the titular president. A titular president is basically a stuffed shirt. He's a tailor's dummy. They wheel out, thank you, on ceremonial occasions. There is no way that the nominal president enhances a nation in a fraction of the way that Queen Elizabeth II enhances this nation. A lot more than the barrackers in this audience do.
Petronella Wyatt, you want the monarchy to stay, don't you? But
yes, first of all, it's complete nonsense that the monarchy prevents us from being egalitarian, because the three most egalitarian countries in Europe which have the highest rates of welfare spending are Norway, Sweden and Denmark, which are all monarchies. So this argument is nonsensical. And look at Japan, which has the most modern industrial society in the world. That also has the most traditional monarchy. So this argument is complete nonsense.
I think, Roger, we need to examine the Republicans a bit. Republicans are always pointing the finger at the royal family and making petty and personal criticisms of them. You look at these people, they're losers, rejects, people, many of them are Marxists, who, if they went out under their true colours, under their true colours, they'd get 2% of the vote, if that. These are people who have an agenda. They wish to destroy the royal family because they wish to destroy other things. This is important. This is the most important point about the whole debate. The people who wish to destroy the monarchy want to destroy the whole traditions and laws which bind this country together. Peter. They'd also like to destroy free speech, as they demonstrate so readily this evening.
Peter,
that is their underlying desire, which they keep to themselves for the moment.
Peter, please. I'd like to turn.
Sorry, if they'd given me a chance, I'd finish much more quickly.
Well, look, let's see what might happen if we did become a republic, because we have with us somebody who would really be king in Portugal. His Royal Highness the Duke of Braganza. Sir, if Portugal hadn't abolished its monarchy in 1910, you would be on the throne today. Why not? What did that do to your country when the monarchy went?
Basically, in 60 years of republic, we had 20 years of political chaos, than 40 years of dictatorship with Salazar. And the former overseas territories, Angola, Mozambique, and particularly East Timor, have become a total chaos. Hundreds of thousands of people died after their independence. And this would be avoided if we could have just a commonwealth with our former African territories and East Timor.
So hold on. You're saying it was a pretty disastrous time after the monarchy went. Could that happen, Jane Moore, here?
Well, nothing is safe.
No, I didn't. You're not Jane Moore.
Sorry, I'm so sorry.
I think.
No, I think you're right. I'll check, but I think you're right.
I think what we're all doing here tonight, I think we are all missing the point. I think that basically the people of this country do want a monarchy. They do not want... Hang on. Can I finish?
Jane, you have 10 seconds.
They do not want a monarchy that behaves in this fashion. We have a king who is going to be coming out. King Charles is a self-confessed adulterer. He has chosen a wife who was basically the gynecologist's choice. He treated her appallingly.
We've got the point. Thank you for the moment.
He cannot be allowed to rule this country.
Thank you for the moment. Thank you, folks. Now for some more shocks from Maury. And this time, it's as much as a surprise for the Republicans.
Yes, our researchers asked a representative cross-section of people, who would you have as president of a republic? And here's the key to the Republican dilemma. There was actually no agreement on any overwhelming favourite. In fact, the highest figure, 17%, wanted Princess Anne. Runner-up was millionaire businessman Richard Branson on 13%, with Prince Charles polling only 9%. Interestingly, older female women over the age of 55 supported Princess Anne, but young men aged between 18 and 34 were the ones who backed Richard Branson.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, we have another question for audience here in the hall. Remember, blue for yes, red for no, and the question is this: should Prince Charles be king? Well, it looks like no. It looks like no. And that is similar to our Maury poll. Almost half the people interviewed thought Charles would make a good king. However, 5 years ago, that figure was a thumping 82%. Perhaps my colleague John Stapleton can tell us why the prince's popularity is on the slide.
Thank you, Trevor. I'm with some people from Leeds, like you, Lorraine. Is the Prince Charles's popularity declining with you?
Not particularly. I mean, he does a lot of good work for the Prince's Trust, which everybody tends to forget about. He brings industry in from abroad when he goes abroad.
Should he be king?
Yes, yes. He is. No, when you actually look at the bad publicity against Charles, right, he has produced two heirs for the throne. Right, on the downside, he's had an affair, he's had an adulterous affair.
But he should still be king?
Yeah, he's not the only king or Prince of Wales in history who's had an affair. It's gone on and it will go on in the future.
OK, let me move over to Newcastle. Gentlemen here, should Charles be king?
How can we possibly accept Charles' succession to the throne, especially as head of nation and head of the church, when he obviously entered a marriage of convenience to produce an heir and continually maintained an adulterous relationship throughout that marriage?
OK. Lots more views to come, but once again, it's your vote we're interested in. This is how you cast it.
Remember, we want your vote on the big question. Do you want a monarchy? Call 0891 980 111 for yes, or 0891 980 222 for no.
OK, let me tell you, thank you very much, Steve, for your calls. We have already had a record number of telephone calls for any television programme, and as a result of so many of you calling in, we're going to keep the lines open throughout News at 10, so do keep trying. 14,000 lines open. Bishop of Aston, good evening to you, sir.
Good evening.
You heard what the gentleman said there. Charles is not fit to be king. He's not fit to be defender of the faith.
I think you have to make a distinction between the monarch and Charles as king and as head of and supreme governor of the Church of England. And I think it is very difficult for the Church of England to have as its head somebody who is in open, adulterous relationship.
So you would not be happy with him as head of the...
I think it's very difficult for him to be the head of the church. A distinction needs to be made, and indeed, whether Prince Charles had a very happy family or not, eventually I think that the church will need to separate itself from the monarch in the interests of Christian unity and our coming together in a visible unity with Christians.
OK, we have a Duke on the panel. We also have a King with us in the audience. King George of Pendragon. King
Arthur,
of the Druids.
as it goes.
Arthur, sorry. Arthur. King of the Druids. I got the King of the Druids right, anyway.
Well, you got a bit of it right.
Would Charles make... Serious point, serious question. Would Charles make a good king?
Yeah, I think Charles would make an excellent king. But the first thing you've got to do is scrap the civil list.
Why?
Simply because he can get out there and do it on his own 2 feet, and he can get out there as a sovereign and lead by example. If he leads, I'll follow, but he's got to get out there and lead.
Gentleman there.
Lead by example. I'm the same age as Prince Charles, and when I was young, as a lot of people my age, they probably would have liked to have grown up to be Prince Charles, because he stood for quite a lot of good things in those days. But now he's metamorphosised into something which is more akin to Nigel on EastEnders, and I don't want to be Prince Charles.
OK, that is the perception of many, many people. Now, why is it, in your view, that Prince Charles's popularity has declined so rapidly in the last few years?
Well, I think the problem isn't just restricted to Prince Charles. I think the problem revolves around the royal family and the British public together. This is a dysfunctional relationship, it's a tense relationship, and it's a discordant one as well. We tend to blame the members of the royal family and their misdemeanors for the breakdown of this relationship. However, the public also has to shoulder some of the responsibility for the breakdown of this relationship. We tend to expect the royal family to behave in superhuman ways, to wear halos all the time. We set them up for failure as a result, and is it any wonder that they disappoint us?
Do you accept that?
No, I don't accept it at all. No, I think, what can we expect from them if we can't expect a good example? They've got constitutionally no power. What else can we expect? But it doesn't matter. They should be setting a far better example than they are doing.
OK. One thing is very clear. One thing is very clear, that no matter what happens, Buckingham Palace will not be shutting up shop this week. It will be here for quite a while. Given that it will remain for quite a while, Max Clifford, a man very much in the news today and at the moment, what can be done, what should be done to restore the royal family's image? That's your business.
Well, I think it's simple. Basically, Prince Charles has got until the Queen decides to call it a day to win the respect and admiration and liking of the British public. He's lost it. He's got that time to try and do it. And if the monarchy is going to continue, that's what's got to happen.
How does he do it?
Well, he's got to be seen to be a different person from the way that he has shown himself up to be in recent years.
Is it as simple as that? Hang on, lady here.
Part of the problem is the media degrade. They go to look for the bad parts of the monarchy.
No, hang on a tick.
Can I just finish? And when you look at the divorce rates, it's huge. We don't need to know about their private life. It's none of our business. And all I can say is roll on the privacy bill.
OK, lady here.
I'm sorry, the church now have decided that they've got to decide against one or the other. I thought that Christianity was here for all of us, not just for some, and that's discipline.
Gentleman there, person again. Yes, sir.
The reason why we're having this debate is because the press have conducted a cynical campaign against the royal family for the last few years in order to try and divert attention from the real issues and keep this Tory government in power.
Broadly speaking, the press report what's going on, sir.
They report and they feed public opinion and they generate public opinion. And yeah, you only have to look at what they say.
OK, one quick last word from Max Clifford.
Prince Charles elected himself to go on television. No one asked him to. He wanted to go on television. And he explained himself on television, and after he explained himself, the British public didn't like what they heard. And that's a simple fact. No one asked him to do it, he wanted to do it.
OK, lots of lively discussion. Lots of lively discussion. I have to tell you, we will be coming back. The programme's going on. Thank you very much indeed for your calls. Keep trying to get through. 14,000 lines open. We are extending the lines throughout News at 10. We do need your votes. We've got a record number already, and I'm sure we'll get even more. So please keep calling. Thank you very much indeed for making those calls. This is how you register that vote.
Remember, we want your vote on the big question. Do you want a monarchy? Call 0891 980 111 for yes, or 0891 980 222 for no.
in our final part, I'll be giving you the result area by area, from Scotland to Southampton, Wales to Wearside. You'll know how your area voted and how the whole country adds up in Monarchy, the nation decides.
And indeed, as John Stapleton said, don't forget, there are 14,000 lines open, and they'll be open all through News at 10. So indeed, we are a little over half an hour away from the result of the world's biggest ever television referendum. Our audience here will be voting on whether the country would want, and this is interesting, want Camilla as queen. We'll be finding out whether Britain believes there'll be a monarchy 100 years from now. Join us after News at 10.
The royal family will always survive. We're always going to have the weirdos who say, no, let's have a president. Imagine President Thatcher. Good God, what a path to self-destruct that would be, wouldn't it? Teeth and all.
I went to the palace to receive my MBE from the Queen, and I met Princess Diana about a couple of years ago. It's a great thrill.
I'm a great supporter of the monarchy. I think it would be a very sad day if this country lost its royal family.
It's your chance to vote on the monarchy. Use it, don't lose it. Vote now.
Looking for something has lost something. And he was not looking. He gets run over.
I need to know the answer!
There is no the answer. There are only questions.
What questions?
Have you considered the goldfish? No. Please consider it.
Which one? Is it in the pond? In the sky? No, not in the sky.
In the pocket, in the shop, in the restaurant.
Credit card. Is this the answer to everything?
Nothing is the answer to everything, but the goldfish is the answer to the question.
What question?
The question, how can I reduce my gas bill?
Every pound you spend with a goldfish credit card can save money on your British gas bill.
But I'm a seeker after truth!
I don't have a gas bill.
You will, matey. You will.
You'll be surprised what you can do with a goldfish.
And 2, 3, bend down, get milk, close the door. 1, 2, stretch for box. Good, Kellogg's All-Bran. Now the pour, 1, 2.
A daily routine with Kellogg's All-Bran is the easy way to help you feel great inside. Made with 100% natural wheat bran, Kellogg's All-Bran is one of the best sources of fibre there is.
Oh, crunch. That's right, another bite. Smashing.
Kellogg's All-Bran helps keep you healthy on the inside.
Wakey, wakey!
Shirley, I've just had this most amazing dream. I had to struggle across the Arctic, and then I was in the jungle, and there was this rope bridge, and it was nearly breaking, and I only just made it. And then finally I was being chased by Indians with bows and arrows and stuff, and then there was this cave, and inside there was hidden treasure, and there it was, the PG tips.
Here you are, Jeff. Looks like your dreams come true.
Oh, thanks, love.
I suppose you stayed in an Indian teepee.
No, Shil, I couldn't get a reservation.
I feel bugged up.
Weapon selected. Unblock. High power. The mighty Mucron knocks the stuffing out of colds, flu and catarrh.
The Sony Centre for the lowest sale prices and the largest range anywhere of Sony. Go direct to the Sony Centre. Sony Centre's your specialist for everything Sony. Vicar Lane, Leeds and Cross Square, Wakefield.
Hello? Yes. It's about your hotel.
The brochure said it was a stone's throw from the beach.
And it isn't.
No, it isn't.
Ever felt misled by some holiday brochures? Thompson's new Summer Sun brochure shows the scores you give our holidays for as honest a picture as possible.
Royal Insurance and Sun Alliance had merged. They're now called
Royal Sun Alliance. Together we'll serve you better.
A lack of confidence can come from a phobia. Being frightened. Snakes. Or spiders. And a fear of small spaces. But that's one phobia we can help you with.
New Citroen Saxo is available with power steering.
specially engineered to give maximum power at the slowest speed. And meter-mate phobia? Incurable.
Call your local merchant now for Coalite, Britain's best-selling smokeless coal.
As the UK's #1, Lunpolly give more discounts on more holidays than any other travel agent. Lunpolly, a better way to get away.
This is the captain of your ship, Carlton. It's time to get a snack on board and no stalling. And if you haven't guessed, this is what we'd suggest.
Muller rice, a satisfying blend of cool, light dairy rice with a delicious serving of fruit. Eat a Muller rice and give hunger the heave-ho. From Muller, who else?
What makes Special K so special? It's not just the 8 vitamins, or iron, or the fact that it's low in fat, or even the nutritious combination of wheat and rice. It's the sum of all these parts and something more. Kellogg's Special K. Stay special.
Everybody knows stir-frying is healthier.
But is that the only reason the Chinese invented it? Horse feathers.
They simply ran out of trees. Cooking this way saved wood. Everybody thinks all fats are bad. Claptrap. The polyunsaturates and flora oil actually help lower cholesterol, making it good news for my body, your body, for everybody.
One big box of Persil gives you loads and loads of beautifully clean bright washers. Not just 10 or 20, but 30 quality washers carefully measured with our helpful new cup. So be sure of more. Look for the basket on the box.
Nurse your headache. Nurse your runny nose. Nurse your tickly cough. Nurse your cold and flu symptoms to get a good night's sleep. Nurse it better with Night Nurse.
It's the same story every winter. Same coughs and colds. Same icy winds. Same delayed trains. But this is not the same. Soup creations from bachelors. A new way of cooking pasta and beans and tomatoes and onions, all in a special rich stock. Create the same warm feeling with a very different soup. Soup creations from bachelors.
Fill 4 cups with cola. Add 1 strawberry trifle.
And a surf standing by.
Say the magic word.
Stain digesters.
Just 1 tug and it's all over.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Leave it offers a money-back guarantee, not me. Boom! I did it. I did it! I did it! Yes, yes, yes! I did it! First time! First time!
Are you sure?
Yes.
It's a good job surf does the trick better than you do.
Oh, what a beautiful morning! Oh, what a beautiful day! Beautiful feeling! I like a beautiful feeling! Everything's going okay!
It takes 140 days of sunshine to make a morning as beautiful as this. So whatever you get up to Kellogg's Cornflakes.
Frozen giblets. Lovely weather for a Coleman's new pork and mild mustard casserole. Ian!
Aye, ladies' man.
A sauce made with Coleman's very own mustard that works wonders with pork. Do you ken, Hen? That's pork as in pig.
Or try Coleman's chicken chasseur, as in chicken.
Chickens! Second on the left, turn right by the tractor.
Coleman's comes highly recommended.
Okay, I want pastrami on Bavarian rice, sweet pickle, tomato. Easy on the Dijon, kosher dill on the side.
Excuse me, double decaf hazelnut latte, medium roasted Colombian beans, 2%.
Sirloin hoagie topping, jack cheese, lettuce, tomatoes, capers, and Russian dressing, fresh parmesan and oregano to go.
The new Chrysler Neon, built for the most demanding country in the world.
When you're tempted by something particularly tasty, a wee small voice usually says,
Naughty?
Well, McVitie's have had a brilliant new idea. Using all their baking know-how, they've come up with an altogether healthier approach. Go ahead. Baked potato chips, fruity things, biscuits, fruit chocolate and cheesecakes, up to 97% fat-free. So go ahead with McVitie's.